pick your class and
earn your battle points.
Because it's time for the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. Welcome to episode 199 of the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and it's a solo show today. Today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on Heroes vs. Villains post-patch, as well as thoughts on Squadrons, and the future of this podcast. Let's get started. So I first want to get started with the future of the podcast. Today marks our 199th episode, which is insane to think about. This year is our 5th anniversary in November, and we are nearing 200 episodes. And with 200 episodes, we've got something huge. I am interviewing a bunch of people in the community to put together a documentary, specifically on the redemption arc for Star Wars Battlefront, with it launching and through its controversy and how it switched and changed the whole idea of the game. That right there is the premise. Stay tuned. We're going to be releasing a trailer on that soon on the Battlefront Podcast YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. So stay tuned for that. It's super exciting. It's the biggest podcast project I have ever worked on. It should hopefully blow On the Battlefront out of the water. I am a huge fan of making documentaries, and this is going to push that want for another documentary through the roof, hopefully. So I'm excited. You should be too. Alongside episode 200, we're also going to be entering a rebrand, which I'm also super pumped about. I've been working on the logo all day today, and it's turning out pretty cool. I'm excited for the future. Going to be playing around with different types of formats for the show too. We're going to see how that works out. Basically, Uplink will be a general Star Wars video game podcast. We're still going to be covering Star Wars Battlefront, but it will also have a focus on the general world of Star Wars video games. So we're going to be covering Squadrons when it comes out, which we already have been, but I want to be able to have the podcast pointed out that it's not just a Battlefront podcast. We're going to be covering the same kind of stuff and more. So we're going to be covering Squadrons when it comes out, covering tips and tricks, guides, interviewing people, hopefully some of the developers. Trying to get some of the developers on for a Squadrons interview when that gets closer. So we'll see how that goes. Also going to be covering Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which that game's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to see how big it is, because I think they've announced 500 or more characters are in that, and the number of planets is also insane. So I'm super pumped about that. We're also going to be covering the older Star Wars games too, and going into how what the older Star Wars games did very well, what they didn't do well, what a future game in said franchise could do well, what it would look like in this current generation and next generation. So I'm super pumped about all of these different kinds of ideas, and Star Wars Uplink will be able to, our rebrand through the Uplink podcast will be a gateway into that world of broader Star Wars video games we're going to be doing we're still doing one stream a week, but maybe more. Maybe we'll have a Battlefront stream and then a classic Star Wars stream. So we shall see, because that's something I really want to get into. We're also going to be rebranding the Patreon for the podcast and adding a lot of benefits, because it's kind of gone by the wayside recently. Shout out to all of our amazing patrons who are still supporting us without any benefits. You will be getting some benefits very soon. What I'm thinking is maybe have a classic Star Wars stream or something along those lines on Patreon, as well, and then have that content edited down to a shorter video for YouTube. So you get, for Patreon, maybe you get the stream first. And something that we may be doing, maybe Patreon exclusive, short form, broader podcast. We'll see how it goes. I want to have some cool stuff. So if you are able to financially support us, we would greatly appreciate it. And you also have something there that you get in return. So that's something I'm super excited about. But now let's talk about Heroes versus Villains post-patch. So Battlefront did get another patch. It fixed the Claw Rush issue as well as Darth Maul issue and some other problems with some of the heroes and just general bug fixes. Obviously, it was a much smaller update than a regular update was, but it's also a lot bigger than nothing. So I'm so glad that they were able to find the time and give one last hurrah that no one was expecting. I mean, as we all were, we were hoping that there was going to be more content coming in terms of updates, but I wasn't really expecting it. So it was fantastic to see that they did bring us a new update that, I mean, I don't think a whole lot of people were expecting. They made a lot of changes to General Grievous. They adjusted his Claw Rush where you only get knocked down by it once, and then in the end animation you can kick and have a second hit. So I'm going to talk about, been playing it on stream every Saturday around 1 p.m. MST or 8 p.m. BST. Battlefront Podcast YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. Play with a whole lot of cool people there. It's a great time, great chat, but have been playing it on stream. And I've been trying to play General Grievous more, but I mean, he's one of those characters now that a whole lot of people don't play because of the changes, and no one really knows how to play him quite yet. So I've been wanting to get better, so I've been specifically playing Grievous. One thing I would like to note on that front, you have to play Grievous a lot more strategically than you used to. You can't just, you just hit Claw Rush, run around in circles, keep on knocking the guy down, kill him, or get one of your teammates to. Like, that was the formula. Now you have to be a little more careful. You have to be more cautious because you don't have that escape plan. So what I like to do is I like to use Claw Rush to get into a match, knock them down, and try to run into the second person in my end animation. Because that end animation, you can hit them and knock them with your feet. So you can kick them as you flip back up into a standing position. So they've added a whole new layer to General Grievous's playstyle. Previously, it was more of a spammy character, very overpowered in launch. They changed some things and then became more of a spammy character. And now it's back to more of a strategic character. So when I like to use Claw Rush either to get into or out of fights. Obviously, as a friend of the podcast, Ethan, aka Danger Cat, hammers it in constantly every time we play Heroes versus Villains. You need to stay together. So what I like to do is I like to run in, at least knock one person down, use the rest of my Claw Rush to join the rest of my teammates, regroup, and then go again. So you do have to play it a little more strategically than you previously did, and I'm really liking it. Obviously, it's just it was so much fun playing around and just abusing Claw Rush. I'm sorry, but it was fun. Obviously, it sucks to have it done against you, but when you do land that Claw Rush, it's pretty awesome. Also, if you are noticing anything different with my voice, we've had some really bad fires in Colorado, and it has been messing my sinuses and my throat up. So if I'm a little more gravelly than usual, that is the reason. I've been greatly enjoying playing Battlefront on the stream. It's something that I've been wanting to do forever, and now I've got the capabilities to. We get asked this pretty frequently, but if you would like to join us, our gamer tag on the Xbox is SWB Podcast, and on Origin, it is the exact same, SWB Podcast. Definitely, if you are on PC or Xbox, send us a friend request, and we'll see if we can play together. Definitely on PC. That is probably the number one place I play the most on. Now, let's go into some Squadrons talk. We are, as of recording this, 25 days, give or take a day or two, away from Star Wars Squadrons releasing, which is crazy to think about. We're getting another Star Wars game this year. Rest in peace, Battlefront. But I'm super pumped. I'm excited to see the community that sprouts up around Star Wars Squadrons. Hopefully, it is a supportive and conducive community to growth and is a fun place to be in. I was talking with Azatru recently about this, and Squadrons has the potential to be a super great community, but it also has that type of gameplay, the really high skill level gameplay, especially at the higher skill levels that we won't see for a little while, but it has that potential to be really crappy. So I hope the community that comes around it sprouts up and is a great place to be. I'm really excited for the fun to have on streams, the fun to have playing with and making squads, having your own squadron. I really want to have my own, like a Star Wars Uplink / Battlefront podcast squadron. So if you have name recommendations, send those in an email or on Twitter, battlefrontpodcast@gmail.com or at SWB Podcast. Yeah, I'm super excited to see the community that comes around it. Hopefully it's a good one. I'm probably going to suck very badly when it comes out just because of that high skill ceiling, but something that's great is because there is no advantage to being on PC versus console. You'll actually have an advantage if you play with a controller. I'm excited to see that. And something that I loved playing first-person Starfighter Assault and Battlefront 2, but you are at, like we said with the podcast with Bombastic and Eckhart, you're at such a disadvantage if you do play that way that it just doesn't make sense to do so. But since everyone will be forced in that perspective, and you'll have an edge or an ease of play on the controller, I really see this game doing very well, hopefully in a competitive sense. I know friends of the podcast, like we had in the last episode, Boomstick, and then friends of the podcast, Sammy Boy and Arcross, are setting up Star Wars Legions and Operation Ace. They're doing some great stuff. Definitely give them a follow. I'll try to put some links in the description to make that even easier. I would love to also hear your thoughts on Squadron. So if you could send those, comment those in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube, or through an email or Twitter, Instagram, wherever you would like to send us one. We would greatly appreciate it. I would love to hear your thoughts on what ships you're going to play, what kind of gameplay style you want to aim for. I think I'm going to start with a general, well, obviously I'm going to play all of them, but I think I'm going to start with basically the assault version first, and I think I may try to do more of a defensive play style going into it. We'll see. I'm super excited to customize my cockpit and see what's going on and what I can do on that front. So let's hope that the community that sprouts around it is a good, healthy community. I'll also put in the description a link to the Wayfinder Discord. It is a fantastic place there. But in there, Mr. Dinko wanted to hear thoughts on Bad Batch and or Ahsoka in Mandalorian Season 2. Hopes and wants for Mandalorian Season 2. Will we see Ahsoka and Sabine in action again? So rounding out this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Some people have been wanting some general Star Wars discussion on the podcast. So we'll see with the rebrand if that becomes a thing. Kind of stayed away because I'm not a huge fan of spoilers. And when you do a Star Wars podcast, it's kind of your job to get the spoilers first and disseminate that information in a non-spoiler way. So we'll see. But I loved the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars. I thought that was a great set of episodes. It's going to be cool seeing them in their own show, the Bad Batch show. So we'll see how that goes. Generally, Mandalorian, I love the first season, but something I'm super scared about for the second season is if it goes too hardcore into the realm of just being a cameo show. What I loved about The Mandalorian is, yes, it's in the Star Wars universe, but it's more supplemental to the universe that we know and love. It's not extremely groundbreaking. We'll see with Baby Yoda. or the child. But that's what I loved about it. It was all new experiences, all new characters. Giancarlo Esposito, I'm super pumped to see him. I think he can play bad guy super well. Looked epic in the Far Cry 6 trailer too. I'm so pumped to see more of the Mandalorian, but I do hope that they stay true to what I love personally. I mean, this is my personal opinion. You're definitely good to have your own personal opinion. But what I personally loved about it was a smaller scale story. It had new characters in it. And I think that made it so much better. And I hope they keep on with the multiple directors approach. I believe that they are. Because each character was able to lend their voice to the Star Wars universe. And I think it did really well on that front. So I hope that my hope for Mandalorian Season 2 is that it doesn't become super cameo based, like, oh my gosh, Boba Fett's in it. Oh my gosh, Ahsoka's in it. You see that character? I hope it becomes more of like, maybe we'll see a glimpse of Ahsoka. Maybe we see Boba Fett would be awesome. So we'll see. But I do like how it's supplemental rather than being the... Yeah, you had those moments in The Mandalorian where like, oh my gosh, look at that's in this movie, but I liked how everything was new. So we'll see. I mean, it would make a lot of sense if Ahsoka did show up into it. It's Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni loves Ahsoka, wants Ahsoka to be in everything. It's like George Lucas when he was wanting certain characters to be in every single thing. When he got onto that one character, it's like, okay, calm down. Just because you want Boba Fett to be in everything doesn't mean he should be in everything. Rest in peace, Star Wars 1313. So I hope going forward that it is a much smaller experience and it stays that way. I'm super excited to see more Baby Yoda. I mean, Baby Yoda's in a little pouch now. I wish I had a Baby Yoda in a pouch. So I'm super pumped to see all of these things. I'm sad. So I talked about this a little bit on stream about the Lego Star Wars Skywalker saga, about it being delayed. I wish it would have been coming out so super soon. I think October 20th was when it was supposed to come out. I would have loved to have it come out this year, but it's such a huge game. I'm always of the mindset is if you feel that your game could be better by being delayed and wouldn't have bugs or big problems or feel lacking, delay it. A delayed game's better than a bad game. Now, delayed bad games, very bad. But even with like Cyberpunk 2077, the Lego Star Wars Skywalker saga, I feel those games are definitely of the size that would benefit from a delay. So hopefully that delay pays off. And it's not, I mean, it's going from October to spring 2021. Hopefully it starts off 2021 with a bang and turns out to be a better year because of Lego Star Wars. Just that. So we will see going forward how that goes. I'm super excited for the rebrand of the podcast. Opening ourselves up to more content. Battlefront updates stayed Battlefront updates, but covered general Star Wars games. But even Cinematic Captures has started moving away from that because, as sad as it is, Battlefront 2 is over. We've done 200 episodes of Battlefront podcast, and it's time to rebrand into Star Wars Uplink or the Uplink podcast. We'll still be bringing the same great content, and making it even better and covering more of what you want to see. So here's to great Star Wars. Stay connected at SWB Podcast. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Battlefront Podcast, or on PayPal, paypal.me/tie-dye-sheep, TYEDYESHEEP. A completely free way to support the show is through leaving a review on iTunes, Apple Podcast, basically anywhere you can leave reviews. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps us out a ton, especially with the rebrand. It would be greatly appreciated. We've had some great reviews there recently. We greatly appreciate them. Read them all. Leave feedback, leave your thoughts. We've even had topics suggested through the reviews, and we've covered them, so it helps us out a ton. We have over 100 and a 5-star rating. So it's greatly appreciated. Our email is battlefrontpodcast@gmail.com. Like I said, topics are appreciated. If you have something that you'd like us to cover, we would definitely appreciate you reaching out through that way. Comments of this video, if you're watching on YouTube, on Twitter at SWB Podcast, on Instagram at SWB Podcast. Twitter is where we are most active. If you'd like to stay up to date on when the streams are happening, that would be on Instagram stories. You can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Wherever you find podcasts, you can find this show. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.